All right, so in each case, describe what operations occurred to move from the direct previous line into the next line. Using what you know about the structure of our number system, make a decision for the inequality symbol. So first up, we are starting with numbers 2 and 5, okay? And we know 2 is less than 5, all right? Then we take these numbers and we're like, what do we do to these numbers to get 4 and 10? And the answer is we multiplied by 2 because 2 times 2 is 4 and 5 times 2 is 10. And when we multiply by 2, we end up with 4, which is still less than 10. Now, see what happens. What do we do to get from 4 to negative 1 and from 10 to 5? Now, don't say it out loud yet, but what operation, Miss Stacy, what operation did we do to get from 4 to negative 1 and 10 to 5? Write that down in the middle. Don't say it aloud, just write it down. If you know what it is. We're on page 92. Did we add something? Did we subtract something? Did we multiply? Or did we divide? Don't say it out loud. All right, then what did we do to get from negative 1 to 5? And doing the same thing, what did we do to get from 5 to negative 25? Write that down. Okay? So let's make sure everybody understands what's going on. So when we were in row 3, and we went from 4 to negative 1 and 10 to 5, what did we do to those numbers to get our new set of numbers?
Wait, for what? Negative 1 to 5?
We went from 4 to negative 1 and 10 to 5. No. Subtract 5. Yes, we subtracted 5. We didn't subtract negative 5. If you subtract negative 5, that is actually adding 5. So we just subtracted 5. Because 4 minus 5 is negative 1. 10 minus 5 is 5. All right, then what did we do to go from negative 1 to positive 5? And what was the same thing that we did also to go from 5 to negative 25? Oh, wait. Before I forget. Ooh. How does negative 1 compare to 5? What inequality symbol should we use? Is less than, is greater than, is less than or equal to, is greater than or equal to. How does negative 1 compare to 5?
Negative 1 is
Less than. Yes, so you should put a less than symbol there. Now, how did we get from negative 1 to 5, and how did we get from 5 to negative 25? We multiplied by negative 5. And once we multiply by negative 5, we got the answers 5 and negative 25. How do those two numbers relate? 5 is greater than, right? Okay, what did we do to get from 5 to 15 and negative 25 to negative 15? Add 10. We added 10, and when we added 10, we got 15 and negative 15. How does 15 compare to negative 15? Greater than. All right, keep going on. How did we get from 15 to 3 and negative 15 to negative 3? We divided by 5. And how does 3 compare to negative 3?
Greater than negative 3.
Greater than. And how did we get from 3 to negative 3 and or from negative 3 to 3? Multiplied by negative 1. Is there something else we could have done besides multiplying by negative 1? Divide by what?
1. Negative 1.
We also could have divided by negative 1, correct? Okay, and then how does negative 3 compare to 3? Less than. Oh. So what operations seem to be flipping the sign? In other words, when did the sign flip? When we were doing what?
Well, if you're dividing by negative.
Gentlemen, I'm pretty sure you're not talking math.
Probably when you divide. Because like when you divide, you're flipping the sign.
Well, we divided by 5 here. Did that flip the sign?
No, because that's not a negative.
Oh, a negative. So the operations that flip the sign, you should add this in, was when we multiplied.
Wait, would that be what operation you're flipping the sign?
What operations appear to be flipping the sign? Yes, is when we multiplied or divided by a negative number. A negative number. Where in math have you heard this before?
I don't.
When you are solving inequalities, right? When you multiplied or divided by a negative number, you had to flip the sign, okay?
Like fractions, like where you divide by negative into positive and they're like
Yes, sort of, yes.
fraction.
Okay, okay. So when we think about the negative number system, is there anything that we can say that's true about it? In other words, when you have a larger value that's negative, well, like if we had 8 and 5, okay, 8 is greater than negative 5. But if I look at them as negatives and I say negative 8 and negative 5, which one's larger? Negative 5, yeah. So the larger valued negative is usually going to be smaller. When I say value, I'm looking at the number itself, right? So the larger the value that's negative, the smaller that number is going to be. Does that make sense? It's kind of difficult to say. Yeah. The larger number is going to be closer to 0. Yeah, not the larger valued. So yes, when you think of negative numbers, and that's a great way to put it, the larger number is going to be closer to 0. Whereas if you think of positive numbers, your larger number is further away from 0, right? Yes? Okay. So question, the next one. Does adding or subtracting a negative number always, sometimes, or never give you the opposite, I'm going to say not number, but sign? Does it ever produce an opposite number? I want to say sign here. Does adding or subtracting a negative number always, sometimes, or never produce an opposite signed number? If I add a negative number, does it always give me the opposite sign? Does it never give me an opposite sign? Is anybody really thinking anymore? Do you understand the question? Does adding or subtracting a negative number always, sometimes, or never produce an opposite number? So if I said 5 plus negative 10, that gives me a negative 5. But if I say 5 plus negative 2, that gives me a 3. So is the answer always, sometimes, or never? That is a sometimes. Wait. Does multiplying or dividing by a negative number always, sometimes, or never produce an opposite signed number? If you multiply or divide by a negative number, will you always, sometimes, or never get an opposite signed number? That should be sometimes also. Okay? All right. So, remember our test is a week from Friday. Today's Wednesday. So we're getting close to the end. Make sure you are working on homework 2.1, 2.2, and homework 2.3. 2.3 was first assigned yesterday, okay? All right. Ooh, I need to grab the dice. Grab the dice. The papers, unless you want them forever,